What's the number one thing that hurts in sales? The number one reason why people get out of sales, get into management, go into marketing, go do something else. The number one thing is rejection, getting the no, getting brushed off. It can wear on you. But what if you gave it a new meaning, gave it a new definition? Just didn't build up the willpower to push through it every day. That's one way. And most of us do that, at least at first. But what if there was a smarter way of looking at it? Seeing it as a signal that you're doing something right, that you might be on the right track, that you might be doing enough. Because if you're not getting rejection, you might not be moving as fast, pushing as hard as you should. That's what we're going to talk about today, talking about redefining that feeling, because it's natural. It's not unusual. You'll hear people say, oh, I don't care, I don't feel it. That's a signal of something else. But what we really need to do is give it a new meaning. Give it a meaning that is empowering to us. Give it a game. Make it playful. Have it be part of the process and make it fun. Now, I always say you're already at no, you don't have to do anything. Build to a yes. And I still believe that, but we also have to extend ourselves. Keep activity up so that we can find the yeses through the nos. And I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. This is one of my favorite interviews so far this year. I like the sentiment about it. And at the end, I'll teach you some of the hacks that I use to go through this. Because if you've ever posted anything on social or you share your content provider, you get so much trolling, so many haters, so many people that berate you personally, misunderstand what you say, promote their own stuff on your post. And it can wear on you. And I'm going to teach you kind of what I went through to kind of give it a new meaning. Instead of just getting upset and having it hang over your head. And I know whether you do email, social, phone, however you're contacting people, I'll also talk about that at the end, ways of doing it in a much more effective way. Before we get in, make sure you're checking out our friends over at Covideo. Video email is crazy successful this year. It's super hot. It's the thing. Now, you don't have to make every email a video email, nor do you have to be fantastic on video. Actually, the people who are most successful are the people who play with it, who connect with another human being through it. Too many people just focus on the pitch. People are not waiting to hear your commercial. And you say, it's not a commercial, it's about my fantastic product. Great. There's a time and a place for that. We have to build to it. What does everybody do when there's a commercial on TV? They get up and get a beer, go to the bathroom, fast forward, whatever it is. People pay extra not to have to hear commercials. We need to connect with another human being. And that's what sales is all about. We got to stop thinking just about ourselves and think about our clients. Let's get into the interview. If you're in the courses, make sure you're checking out the office hours. We had a fantastic one yesterday talking about some of the big deals of last quarter and the big deals of this quarter, working through the things that naturally happen and how to prevent them. And when you hear a whole community of people chime in about their ideas, their techniques, their processes, as well as mine, I'm not the know-it-all. You really get a sense of how do you prevent this from happening. It is the natural course of action. Placing an order is not. Maybe on the transaction, but not on big deals. Let's get into the interview. Welcome to the show, Andrea. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Well, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice, which I have literally used none of whatsoever. I was then, when I was in college, joined a company called Lens Crafters and got promoted into management and got into training, where I met my now husband, who convinced me that we should quit our jobs and launch a speaking and training company, teaching all of the philosophies that we wanted to share in our company. But of course, since we were actual employees, they really didn't want to hear what we had to say. And we could go be people from the outside and come in and teach our strategies, including Go for No. And so that's what I did. That was about 22 years ago now, and I haven't looked back. And I spend most of my time, waking hours, figuring out how to help people overcome fears of failure, rejection, and the word no.
And what came first? Was it the book or the company?
So we actually wrote, the very first book we wrote was a book called Unlocking the Secrets of Retail Magic. And that was a small 64-page book that we never sold. You saw the movie. We never sold it on Amazon. We sold it direct to, this is, of course, so I'm dating myself, right? Dinosaurs were roaming the planet. We were selling direct.
We had stores?
To companies, to executives. Yes, stores. People would walk in them and buy things. It was amazing. So the company, we launched the company with that book. We're big believers that, the book is the door, at least for us, it's been the door opener into organizations, sending copies of whichever book to the decision maker. And the third book that we wrote was Go for No. So it all kind of transpired together.
Yeah. And what was the genesis of the idea? What was the epiphany?
Yeah, so the epiphany was, it was something that actually happened to my husband, Richard, when he was selling suits for a living. He was working, doing pretty horribly, actually, pretty convinced that they were going to fire him. A district manager came in to visit the store, see how everybody was doing, as they do, and they like to stand around and watch people sell and see how they're performing. So Rich comes in on this particular store visit day, and it happened that day a customer walked in and said, I want to buy an entire wardrobe of clothing. Rich got to sell this man $1,100 worth of clothes. The district manager saw the whole thing. Richard is thinking he's going to be congratulated for having this fabulous sale. And then the district manager said, out of curiosity, Richard, what did that customer say no to? And he had to think about it. And he said, Harold, that customer didn't say no to anything. Obviously, I had this fabulous sale. It was $1,100. Of course, again, way back in the day. And he said, I sold him a suit and a sport coat and slacks. And Harold said, yeah, Richard, I know what he said yes to. Yes is the easy part. We just have to look at, the sales ticket. I'm asking you, what did the customer say no to? And Rich had to say, had to admit, basically, he didn't say no to anything. Everything I laid in front of that man, he purchased. And then Harold asked him the really important question, which was, well, then how did you know he was done? And it was in that moment that Rich kind of had this epiphany of, I ended the sale. The customer didn't. He probably would have kept buying. And so that was kind of his epiphany moment. And as he likes to tell the story, he always says that he learned that, he didn't know if he had what it took to succeed, but he certainly knew he had what it took to fail, that he could hear no more often. He could show more products to customers. He could hear more no's and increase his sales. And that's what he did. And he basically taught this philosophy to me. I didn't like hearing the word no. I thought I was a superstar salesperson, actually, thought I was fantastic. But then I had to admit to myself, you know what? I don't like getting no's from customers either. So had to turn that around. That was kind of the epiphany. That's the foundation of the whole philosophy.
So it's really changing the meaning of no, because from the neuroscience standpoint, no is rejection, and next to death, rejection, right? Yeah. Or maybe public speaking, which is almost guaranteed rejection,
right?
And then no.
Yeah.
So internally, we're going to have a trigger response to it.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So it's kind of funny that you're right. I mean, it's part mindset and part actual tactical strategy of, hey, you need to, if you are not hearing no, then you obviously are not maximizing your potential. But at the same time, it's a mindset which says, when you have that go for no moment, whether you can ask the question and you talk yourself out of it and say, well, I'm not going to ask it because they're just going to tell me no. That's kind of the mindset that we want to help people dismantle. But we are dealing and fighting against biology. And there's a real sting, right? There is a real physical reaction.
Yeah, it's like, the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. You're trying to rationalize your conscious mind with your unconscious mind.
Yes,
And the
it's a
problem is,
constant, and it's a constant battle.
right.
It's
And
not an
I
easy
always
battle.
say, the unconscious is 90% and the conscious is 10%. Guess who's going to win?
Right.
Right? 9-1. So this is a skill, is it?
I think it is a skill, and I think it's a skill that you can master. And like every skill, if you're practicing it on a daily basis, you tend to get better. And then when you let it slide and kind of forget, which people tell me all the time, yeah, I do remember Go for No. I have done that in the past and I forget. And so it's one of these things where I guess maybe that's good for me. It's job security. People need to be reminded, as I call it, notivated. You need to constantly remind yourself that, your default is to avoid these situations, to not be rejected. So you've got to constantly be pushing, and not be pushy, by the way, but pushing through your own comfort zone.
Right, because it's a lot like a diet. It's like a habit, because none of us wake up in the middle of the night and go, you know what? I need a kale smoothie right now. Right? No, they go, oh, I got some frozen lasagna in the freezer, or I got that chocolate cake in the fridge.
Right.
That's what we crave.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And then as either salespeople or anybody, that rejection at any level is painful.
Yeah.
And if we aren't making it a daily habit, that it's okay, that it doesn't mean we're bad. It just means that not everyone is going to buy. Not everyone is going to cooperate. Not everybody's going to be interested.
Right. And I think sometimes for the super professional salesperson out there, salespeople in general, I think, I don't know if you will agree with this, but, we get validation sometimes from making that sale and from being that persuasive, charismatic, person, and we don't want to be rejected. It feels like a failure. It feels like a loss. Yeah. So there's all of that psychology to deal with.
And our conscious mind thinks that there's a silver bullet, that there is some script, some action, some tool that will get you 100% yeses. And that doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
Right. So we keep focus in and coming up with any excuse not to pick up the phone, not to send an email, not to connect with somebody, because we're not going to get an immediate yes, of affirmation of some kind.
Exactly. So it's about not needing that validation, and also just putting yourself in that position to take those risks, to quote unquote fail. I mean, that's why we talk a lot about failure in the book Go for No. I mean, it's kind of the foundation. It is a fail your way to success philosophy.
Yeah. And a lot of people must misinterpret it.
Oh my gosh, Brian, you have no idea. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, listen, we have created, I say this all the time, we've created the world's biggest marketing challenge for ourselves. Hey, I have an idea. Let's go out to salespeople who only want to hear yes and tell them to go for no. That sounds like a fantastic idea. Yes, let's do that. But at the same time, a lot of people who have been around for a while hear the term Go for No, and they've told me, oh, I totally get it. It's genius. It makes sense. I get it. I understand it, because they know that no is part of the process, and the idea is not to avoid it. And yet at the same time, I do get pushback where people think, oh gosh, that's so negative. We don't want to, think about no. And my whole thing is, well, let's take the negative reality. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is rejection and no. How can we be better? How can we change our mindset around it, and turn it into an empowering thing and something positive, rather than this thing that we don't want to talk about? And the reality is there are sales meetings happening all over the country, virtually now. And nobody's raising their hand going like, I don't know about you guys, but I have a fear of rejection. I hate hearing the word no, right? Nobody says that. So leaders have to be willing to, let's have this dialogue. And also, how do you get better? How do you get more skilled that when you do hear those no's, you can work on the quality of your presentation and just get better figuring out, okay, why are we hearing these no's? Are we talking to the right people? Are we Are we, are we offering the value statement correctly? Are they getting what we're saying? When you start hearing those no's, it's an opportunity to ask those questions.
Yeah, because most sales leaders are just looking for activity and not really thinking through it or helping develop reps to redefine their reaction to it, that it's okay, that you're never going to get everybody. Right. The tribalism even of the country. No politician ever gets more than, 55%? Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, exactly. And anybody who tells you should be getting yeses 100% of the time is selling you something, right?
And also, I've always had this saying, it's like, you're already at no. So don't worry about it. You build up to a yes, but you're already there at no.
Yes. That reminds me of something Jack Canfield talks about. He says, if you ask somebody to lunch and out to lunch and they say no, well, you didn't have a lunch date 5 minutes ago, so you're in the same place that you were 5 minutes ago. Nothing has changed, right? You did have to experience that rejection. So if you can compartmentalize and learn to experience those rejections, then your state hasn't really changed. You're in the same place as you were before.
And how do you build this habit?
Well, one of the things that we teach people is to set no goals. We teach people to set a goal for the number of no's that they're going to hear on a given day, week. I mean, you can set a no goal for the month, but what I find is people go like, great, I will set a goal for the number of no's to hear. And on day 28,
I'll start.
Right, I will start hearing more no's. Because, and I'll give you the example. So when Richard and I launched our company, all those many years ago, we had a yes goal of getting 4 bookings a month. And we were cold calling VP of HR and VP of training, sending packages in the mail. So we had this yes goal of 4. And whenever we got to that yes goal, or even sometimes close, even if we got 3 or 4, we were done for the month. We were like, all right, we hit our goal of how many bookings we want to get. So let's just kick back for the rest of the month and go lay by the pool. And then we said, okay, we need to change the strategy. We had written go for no, and we were like, we need to really start doing this. We need to put this to the test. So we said, let's have 100 companies say no to us each month. And we won't even worry. Let's not worry about the 4 yeses. The 4 yeses was our internal quota. And it was the one that we felt we were comfortable with. So our income never increased because, we had bad sales leaders. What can I say? The income never increased because we were the ones setting this for a booking quota. And then when we said, all right, let's get 100 no's, like 100 companies to say, no, we don't want you to come in, we had more business than we knew what to do with, because we weren't just focused on that yes goal, which can tend to limit sometimes.
And what did you start to feel differently about it? Because logically, you can explain it to yourself and rationalize it. But again, you're going to have that feeling. Yeah.
And back then, it did not feel good still. No. But the more you do it, right? The more you do, I think that the more you do it, the more it does kind of, you numb yourself. Yeah. And we encourage people like, hey, make it a game. Just focus on your behaviors, detach from the outcome, just make it a game. But in the last many years of teaching this, to your point, I have personally done a lot of work and encouraged people to do a lot of work around this idea of not taking no personally. I would have been even more, if I had done this work back then, I would have been so much more effective, because to me, it was still, it's my company. This is my offering. I take it very personally. I'm not even selling widgets here. We're selling our creation. Yeah, us, which any artist, right? Artists literally, it's the most painful rejection, right? Like, I would never hang that painting on my wall. Gee, thanks. It took me 2 years to create, right? But it's really learning to value and appreciate the other people's opinions, and recognizing that some people are going to hate it and dislike it, and some people will want it and buy it for the exact reason that someone else didn't want it. Yeah. So the more you embrace that, and I read a book called The Four Agreements, which really helped me with this. One of the agreements is not taking no personally.
Yeah, and that's it. Just I post a lot of videos on LinkedIn and stuff, and when you get up to 100,000 views, even if 1% misunderstands it or hates it, right? You take it personally, and the immediate emotional reaction is 100% wrong. You want to argue, you want to delete, you want to block. Instead, I try and say, be playful with it. They have a right to their opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they do. So my favorite story is, we wrote a book called $1 Million a Year, and all authors will go in, as you know, and look at their reviews, right? Oh, you read your reviews. And so I go in one day and I read this review, and this person says, this book was not worth the paper it's printed on. Like,
I love those, don't you?
Yeah, right? It was just horrible. And I think it said a couple other things, like it's just horrible. And I should turn it into kindling, like whatever. And I was just like, oh, this is so painful. Like that sting, which is wired into us to have that emotional sting, so that, hey, you don't want to have this happen. You could die over this rejection, right? But then I had to step back and I thought, okay, Andrea, think about what work have you not liked that you really like, that you had such distaste for? And I immediately thought of this movie called Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which Richard and I went to the theater. We sat in the theater, and after about 20 minutes, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get these guys flying around. I'm so not into it. We left, right? Yeah. So I decided to write this person on Amazon, which I also do not suggest that you do. Yeah, no, do not recommend. So this was quite a while ago. So I write this person and I said, hey, I really appreciate your review. I'm sorry that the book wasn't for you. I totally get it. In fact, I walked out of the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which apparently, like, I think it got Academy Award nominations and stuff. Yeah, huge. And so I get it. You didn't like it, and I understand. I kind of used my example. And it was very empowering to me to put myself in a position where I thought, what do I like, quote unquote, hate? What do I dislike? And I think there's obviously a line of being cruel. And sometimes those people, those are just, hurt people, that line. So trolls, there's just trolls that they just want to be cruel. But this person wasn't being, he could have used nicer language, but I got it. He didn't like it. Now, here's the crazy part. The crazy part is, a while later, he revised his review and said, I went back in, I reread the book. It's actually pretty good. I'm changing my review to 4 stars.
It is crazy. And I think because most people try and brute force their way through this, right? That just willpower, like with diet and exercise, or overcoming an addiction or whatever. And what we all know is we got to rationalize it, and it takes a daily habit, a little bit, keep looking at it a little bit different, because your book isn't a read once and put it away book. It's a book that you should have on your table. You pick it up once a week to remind you to rebuild this mindset and logic about this feeling you have. And that feeling is temporary. It goes away. But if you're not out there stretching yourself every day, you're not growing. You're shrinking, right? You're the monkey won't touch any of the bars because they all shock you, and you just go crazy.
Yeah. It requires a consistent level of effort to kind of hack your psychology, and it's just one of those things.
It's hacking it, right? Yeah. Because there's no pill. There's no, right. It's just a rationalization or reasoning that is different for everybody. Have you seen any physical things like, standing up and smiling at the ceiling, or just take a walk, break your pattern?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that is something that I haven't really dug into in terms of a strategy, but I know those things work and make sense, because there was a study done, you probably saw this a couple of years ago, about how there was a study done about how rejection is literally like physical pain.
It is.
Right. And so I think that by changing your state and by changing literally the muscles in your face, change your brain chemistry, and taking a walk changes your everything about your state of mind and state of being. And I think those strategies are really powerful. Probably should talk more about them, actually. I tend to be someone who's so cerebral in terms of, thinking your way out of this, but there's such a huge brain body physical combination. I'm totally one of those people who believes that a large part of even pain and health is from your mind, right? That there's such a connection. I used to have searing back pain. I literally healed it by changing some things about the way I was thinking. So it stands to reason, you're right, that rejection, if you can hack it in a physical way, that's a really powerful strategy. So thank you. I will be adding that into my repertoire.
Right. Yeah, because Dr. John Sarno, I don't know if that's the book you wrote. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Howard Stern turned me on to
Howard Stern. I was listening to Howard Stern on my way to class. I was in college. And so here is so funny, not to get off track, but like I'm in my early 20s. I shouldn't have any back pain. No. I've done nothing in my life to have searing back pain, but I was under such pressure and so deeply unhappy at this particular time that it manifested as unbelievable back pain.
How about as far as like future pacing, where there's a lot of exercises, you in your mind anticipate the no, a hang up, no thank you, not for me, not interested. And then you mentally exercise going through these fictitious no's to condition your mind. I don't know if you've experimented with that or.
No, but it's so, and that's a really important point, because one of the other pushbacks, speaking of, as you asked about pushbacks, was people who are like thinking about law of attraction and how, you want to go in. And this is a really interesting thing. And I would kind of love your take on this about, do you walk into a sales situation or a meeting, or even before you pick up the phone with this, it's going to be yes, it's going, that positive mindset. And so I certainly think that there's something to that. I certainly, in our book, we say, you do the best you can. I'm not suggesting, I tell people all the time, you don't have to sabotage yourself. I'm not saying go for no. And if you pick up the phone and somebody goes like, yeah, I'd love to meet with you, that you hang up because that was just too easy. That would be ridiculous. So it's about doing the best you can. But also, I think where we come from is it's not about expecting a no. I don't want people to expect and hope and wish and pray, because yes is the destination, but it's about accepting it as part of the process. And so on that front end of saying, it's that mindset of, oh, they're just going to tell me no. I'm just going to get rejected. I'm not going to try this, as opposed to, well, you don't know that. So why don't you don't have to expect it. But to your point also, you should prepare. You should play it out, right? Play out the scenario of, if somebody says, no, I'm not interested, what's the quick thing that you can do?
What do I do? Yeah. Is it okay? Do I celebrate it and go to the next one? Or, or do I, go get a cookie?
Exactly. And if you're getting cookies, that could go downhill really fast.
Really fast. And I think a lot of people get the cookie, or they don't go for the next one.
Exactly. And that's part of why that no goals process is important, because we do tell people to celebrate it. And we do tell people, you get it and you keep going. You can't get that one no and let that stop you. And also there's, the skill of, okay, can you turn that not interested into a future opportunity? Could you in that moment say, oh, totally understand. Would you mind if I check back with you in 6 to 8 weeks to see if anything's changed, right? There's things that you could do.
Or ask why, or ask, who else do you know that this might fit? Or if you were me, what would you do?
So many
engage, right? Yeah. Instead of it just saying, oh, I'm bad. I stink at this. I'll never succeed. It's like, no, it's just part of the process. Now, do you see having it be daily is much more effective than either weekly?
Yeah, kind of a fan of day, and I'm a fan, as you kind of suggested, habit, right? So if you can do this a couple times, the biggest holdback, one of the things that I've done over the years is these different Go for No challenges, like a Go for No 30-day challenge, and challenge people, see how many no's you can get in 30 days, break that down into 4 weeks. Start week 1, just kind of have a baseline of, okay, how many no's do I even get? Like, what's my no awareness? And then from there, set a goal, set a no goal for week 2 and week 3, and maybe keep challenging yourself. You don't have to make it crazy. Sometimes people contact me and they're like, I'm getting 1,000 no's. And I say, don't do that. You're going to make yourself crazy and you're going to hate me. But in that challenge, I think it's really powerful to set those goals and to do something every day so that you get in the habit of it, not to where we procrastinate and then it never gets done. But the biggest holdback, I guess I'll call it an excuse that people have, Brian, and I know that you hear this all the time, is, well, I don't have time. And I'm like, you don't have time. We're talking about like sales behaviors. This is not.
It's not a time thing.
This is not a time thing. This is a priority thing.
Yeah. How about as far as, have you seen any correlation between personality types that adopt this and others that just don't get it?
That's a good question. It kind of falls into, I think, the 20-60-20 thing. I've spoken to a room of 1,000 people, and inevitably there's one person who walks up, and they really like to walk up, and they're proud of this, and I'm happy for them. They always say, no doesn't bother me at all. Like, at all. I have never had a problem with it. And I'm always like, well, you are in the top 1%, because for most of these people, they have some kind of issue with it. And then you have so it's kind of the 20-60-20 is usually that 60% are people who are pretty open-minded and flexible, and they want to try it. You've got 20% who love it, take to it immediately and do it. And then you have 20% who just seem to have such anxiety and probably issues that I can't even help. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm sure there's people who have a cognitive bias. Where the default is so strong that they can't move. Because I've had a lot of sales people on, and this is a pattern. Would you rather, is your love to win stronger than your hatred of losing? Okay, so the love to wins one are going to do whatever they can to get a yes. The hate to lose will bowl through the nose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're just like willpower, 100%. They're the people who, give up drinking one day or give up smoking one day and never touch it again.
Yeah.
And we're all different. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. and some people, but I think most of the people I have seen are, they want to do it. They believe it works. They totally get it. They want to change their mindset. But I think sometimes they almost overdo it in terms of, well, they should be, doing it at this huge, crazy high level. And I'm always like, do it, in those moments that you talk yourself out of that opportunity where you did get that no. And instead of running and just going, okay, click buy, it's just pause for a second, always think like football. What's my next move? How do I just move this down the field just a little bit? And people just forget, right? They just forget about those strategies and kind of fall back into their own old ways.
Cool. Hey, this has been a fun conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and get the book?
GoForNo.com. It's very easy, and I'm well branded. So you type in Go for No, you will find me.
You come up number 1.
Yes, no one else.
Here's kind of my hack for doing this, because I get probably 100 of these little digs, little haters, trolls on my posts per day. And, sometimes you feel like fighting back and engaging them. And occasionally I still do it, and I try and be playful about it. But the hack is to what they call future pacing it. Future pacing means, Okay, right now it's not happening. Anticipate it happening. And then how would you ideally like to handle it? Do you delete it? Do you ignore it? Do you block them? And the same thing with whether you're prospecting either through email or voicemail is detach from the outcome. Learn from the outcome. Do not internalize the outcome. And you can do that if you work the phones in your mind. Just imagine somebody hanging up on you. How would you like to react? Take a deep breath, smile, and hit the next number. That's how you ideally like to do it. I remember the first time somebody did it to me when I first got into sales, just hung up on me, and I felt it was so rude. I had to go out for a run. Now, that sales model isn't going to scale if I have to go for a run every time I get a hang up. You have to give it a new meaning. The meaning is not pushing you down the social ranking. The meaning is it's just part of the process. It's okay. It's funny. Play with it. And that's part of what we talked about in the interview is just play with it. Gamify it. Give it a new meaning. And this happens a lot better when you have camaraderie. But regardless, if you want to be in sales and you want to be successful, you have to be able to manage your state, manage your self-awareness, self-regulation. This is part of what they call emotional intelligence, the internal part of it. I talk a lot about the external part, about curiosity, interest, empathy, caring, anticipation. This is about internal and being able to recover from it. Now, this is also a tricky part because you want to win. You hate to lose. Now, part of hating to lose is caring. Now, I think you need that part when you're in a deal. But in prospecting, I don't think you can have that. I think you have to detach from it and gamify it. If you hate to lose in the prospecting side, you're going to burn out. It's going to hurt too much. So I think you got to detach from that. And one of the ways I prospect is I do it in certain steps, certain objectives for each step. What everybody does is they put everything into one step. It doesn't work. Start the conversation, get the meeting, is breaking down those things into exact steps and becoming skillful at each step. The problem is people think, oh, I just know it. Knowing it is 10%. Executing it is 90%. I used this analogy this week, with somebody. It's like, how long will it take me to learn this? Well, understanding it, knowing it won't take that long. Becoming good at it takes a while. And I asked them, have you ever played a game or a sport? And they said, yeah. They also like chess. I go, I love chess. Been playing since I was probably in second grade. And how good are you at it? Not that good. Yeah. And I go, I'm pretty good. I play almost every day. And I had a coach at one time, but I still get my butt kicked. I know how to play the game, but how good are we at it? Sales is how good you are at it. Don't get stuck in the B player trap, the confirmation bias of I just know enough or I know how to sell. I bet you do, and I agree with that. But how well are you executing that? How do you judge that? How do you grade it? How do you improve it? How do you polish it? That's what Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting is all about. Instead of all these other online training courses, this is not just online. It has the core content. It has office hours, which is an hour meetup every other Friday per course on Zoom. It's discussion, topic, Q&A, case study based. And when you get, a ton of people together talking about particular issues, people chime in and they have great answers. And it's also recorded and put into the course. So there's 2 years of them in there. These courses are insanely valuable, not just because of what they teach you, but how you hear other people solving certain problems. Because we're all facing the same things. The best thing you can do, other than talking about your deals, is hearing how other people are working on their deals and what are the traps that they're either going to fall into or avoid or prevent. It's not just content. See, I've looked at the other courses and it's like, or workshops. You can learn the information at a 2-day workshop, but you can't become good at it. It takes a while. People say, well, how long will it take? I go, I'm still working on it. I become better in the last 2 years than probably the previous 20. Why? Because I'm working with other people in difficult. No one joins the courses because they have it easy. Everyone who's in there has it really hard. So there's no, how do you take an order? There's none of that. How do you qualify an inbound lead? I don't get any inbound leads. How do I crush a smaller competitor? No, I am the small competitor. It is all about the hardest of the hard and breaking it down in conversations, being able to visualize the deals, being able to talk through them, becoming better. And they're priced for the rep. They're not priced for the company, and it's all me. You don't get some flunky that's going to help you or show up for office hours. It's me. I prepare for it all week long. I take out from the one-on-ones. Hey, did I tell you we get one-on-ones? You know what a one-on-one is? It's you and me sitting down for 30 minutes talking through a deal, opportunity, or issue that you want to resolve. And it's recorded anonymously. No one knows your name, company, product, customer, any of that stuff. And you get to talk through it. And the value of that is other people get to hear that particular issue. And when you are in the fog of war, you're not going to see the things that you really need to see until it's too late. Sound familiar? So go to b2brevenue.com. There's 2 main courses. Start the conversation, get the meeting, fills up your pipeline. A lot of the people in the course are booked 2 weeks out, solid, no cold calls, no cold emails, all with people who want to talk with them. Now, these are not disco calls. They're conversations that turn into business discussions. Because who do you like to talk to? People who are interested in you. The other course is winning the complex sale. Takes it from that first conversation all the way through to closure. I explain how companies buy, how people think, what are the things that you are going to run into, and how to prevent them, how to close the biggest deals in your company's history and have you make major money. So go to b2brevenue.com. Also, check out the show notes. There's a bunch of frequently asked questions in there. Sign up, get started, and attend the office hours, schedule one-on-ones. Can't wait to talk with you. Also, are you listening to the B2B Revenue Leadership Show, the podcast? I've got a great interview there this week. Also, sales questions, brutally honest answers. I answer your questions daily on that show. Sell me this pen. Are you out there interviewing? You might hear that question. I don't like it. I'm not saying it's good. I'm helping you answer it, though. I did a video. It's on LinkedIn and on YouTube. How to perfectly answer the question regardless of what the manager wants to hear. And it's not about selling the pen. It's really not about selling. It's about connecting with that hiring manager and showing them how coachable and cooperative you are. Don't let your ego get in the way of your wallet. It's not a good solution. Have your wallet support your ego. We'll see you next time.